I've noticed the few storms back east of us, the Midwest and back east. That's the thing about being in Arizona and not being back home in Texas is I'm very cognizant of how nice the weather is here, even if it's really hot. I don't mind really hot when it's not raining. There's not a big tornado coming tomorrow or right now or something like that. So
it's nice not being under a twister threat for sure. I'll take a 94, 95 degree day, no humidity. Considering all the options on the menu, that's more my speed.
It may be somewhat boring, but boring is actually good for me when it comes to weather. I'll tell you that. But yeah, man, it is that time of year. It's springtime. It's not anything too shocking. I know, like I say, last week and even into the weekend, Texas was getting some weather, and then the folks over in the southeast. I know even as early as last couple of days. Georgia had some weather come through. I haven't heard any reports of anything major affecting the crops. I think there was through some of the storms last week. I heard there might be some bloom drop for the green bell pepper deal, but overall, I think it's uneventful as it relates to the crops. One thing that is affecting the overall industry, and we talked last week. About some different stuff down in Mexico, particularly water shortage. That hasn't gone away. And, we may talk a little bit about that. But, it's the cost of labor, right? I mean, labor costs certainly down. I mean, everybody's aware of it. Minimum wages are up all over. But in the ag space, here in the U.S., H-2A worker program saw a report where it's up like 19% since 2000.
It's pretty ridiculous. The hoops that domestic farmers have to go through in order to get the labor that they absolutely need to bring, not just bring a crop to harvest, but to harvest, pack, and ship it to ensure food on everybody's tables. It's kind of a travesty. It's easy to bag on the government and say, they need to be doing this, they need to be doing that, but this is, one instance where I think the regulations have just completely gone overboard to the point that in short order, if something's not done, the labor situation is gonna break. Obviously, being primarily Mexican producers, I want a strong complementary domestic production. The U.S. can't rely solely on imported produce, and it can't rely solely on domestic produce. You have to have that combination of the two. And, I want strong competitors out there in the marketplace. And I really hope, after years and years of stumping on Capitol Hill and talking to legislators, everybody agrees there's a problem. I just hope they finally take it up and address the issue. Because the regulations have just become unfair at this point in time.
I know. I read also in that article I was reading, and I believe it was the Packer that had it, but National Council of Agricultural Employees, they've sent a letter up to the DOJ. It's the Department of DOL, the Department of Labor. Yeah, the DOL. They sent basically exactly what you're saying is, look, we can't work with this situation you guys are giving us, and you're really going to put a strain on the American food supply chain, particularly the fresh food supply chain, if something's not done. And a lot of pressure there, and for any of us, it makes you question when it comes time to put a crop in. I mean, if you don't know, you're either going to have water, or you're going to have labor. You start to rethink how much you're going to put in, or if you put a crop in at all.
Exactly. Similar to what we were saying with the water situation in Mexico last week, that uncertainty adds, another level of risk apart from everything that growers have to deal with on a daily and weekly basis. It just gets to the point, you start to wonder why people do this in the first place. But thankfully, there are people that take up the mantle and continue to grow. You and I discuss it all the time. It's the healthiest food on the planet. We grow and ship medicine, and the fact that it seems easier for drug companies to bring new pharmaceuticals to the market than it is for farmers to grow healthy food for the public. It just doesn't seem right.
Indeed. And you talked about going up on the Hill and trying to get some action. IFPA's going up with their annual conference here in a couple of weeks, and I've been there. You've been there. I know FPAA will be going up, talking about some of the issues we face, just border crossings and stuff like that. But, the frustrating thing is you and I can talk about it, we can be aware of it, but like you say, they're more concerned with the drug companies and those guys because that's where the money's at, and unfortunately, a lot of times our government moves where the money is, and I don't expect much change. I don't expect much change, unfortunately, and that's just kind of my pessimistic view on it. But speaking of governments and labor and everything, I mean, it's Mexico's not escaping some of those challenges as well, right? I mean, they too have some real issues when it relates to labor, the cost of labor. I think, if I'm not mistaken, for the past 3 years, I think it's been a 20% increase each year. And not to mention a ton of other things that they've layered on that they're requiring the farmers to do for the workers. So
and obviously the workers are primordial to making the farm work. But again, these regulations just continue to go above and beyond and strain an already strained endeavor in farming, and it's a sad reality. These farmers are taking care of their workers, and yet the government continues to say, no, you need to do more. You need to do more. I'm not sure where it ends, but the fact that labor typically accounts for 30 to 35% of your total input costs. When you talk about 20% increases year over year, it talks directly to the inflationary pressures that we've seen, at least on the farming side. And while some of that seems to be finally making its way into the marketplace, I don't think that is being received quickly enough to offset the increases frankly in an industry where margins are already incredibly thin.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And then, the competition for labor here in the United States, you got a 3.9% unemployment rate. In Mexico, you've got a surging economy with all the nearshoring that's coming in and the competition for labor. And, we're an industry where you can't really take machinery and go out and replace the labor. If you're whether you're dealing with, cucumbers and growing them in a protected situation where you're stringing the cukes, or growing in an open field, or particularly squash, things like that, all this stuff's done by hand. So, I don't know. I mean, I think it ends, it comes to a situation where either prices get high enough where people can survive and people can make a living at it, or it goes the other way and it's just less production and less food for people here to consume and get their hands on.
You end up with higher prices and less food, and it's not a position anybody wants to be in.
No, that's not the formula for increasing consumption of something that's certainly much healthier than a lot of the alternatives that are out there. So. Well, we're probably not going to fix it today, but just something that I'm sure we'll have conversations around this as we could probably talk about this each week, because I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. But
no. So with that being said, for all the people out there watching and/or listening, if you haven't yet, sign up for the March on Washington through IFPA. It is a fantastic event. It's rare that you get to go talk to somebody that has so much influence and power over the industries that we work in, and that know so little about what goes into it. And it's a great opportunity to both educate them, but also it really lets you kind of see behind the curtain as to how the government works. So if you've never been there, definitely worth the first trip. And if you have been there, please continue. I know it's like pounding sand or you're beating your head against the wall, but it's continuing to beat that drum is the only way we're ever going to affect any change.
That is a fact, and a good shout out for that conference for sure, because it is one of my favorites, and it's one that if you haven't been, or even if you have, it's one I highly recommend everybody make a trip to go. One other thing, so going on to a little more positive news in terms of things that are going in the right direction. So, the Packer had their fresh trends report, which is what I was reading through this week, and talked last week about the IPA and the conference that I was at, and some of the numbers on squash and cukes, and the increase in what seemed to be purchases, not only packages, even with prices really not being that much up in both those categories. But what they had, through this report, they did, and this was just one of the questions that came up, but they asked the consumers, versus 20 years ago, which I gotta be honest with you, I'm not sure I could tell you what I was doing 20 years ago. I was thinking about that as I read the question. So, I'm 58 now, I was 38. But the question was today versus 20 years ago, what are you buying more of, or what are you buying that you weren't buying 20 years ago? So, it's a statistic. I'm sure maybe a lot of people have better memories than I do. I can tell you, I don't know. I guess I'm probably doing a lot of things different than I was 20 years ago. I'm just not sure what I was doing at 38, except, chasing kids and going to soccer games and things of that nature. So, but anyway, according to this group, 25% of them are saying they're buying more bell peppers than they were 20 years ago. So, or they didn't buy bell peppers 20 years ago, and boy, they're buying them now. So.
20 years ago, at least in the colored pepper space, they were still considered a very, niche item. It was right around that time that they started becoming a little more ubiquitous. But yeah, it was just traditional green bell peppers that you would find on pretty much every store shelf. So, that definitely speaks to continued availability and year-round availability of some of these items that, we've kind of gotten to the point where seasonality in a lot of these vegetables is out the window, in that you can go to just about any grocery store 52 weeks out of the year, and these items are on the shelf, which will definitely increase the amount of these items that people are buying. So there's both sides of the equation. People saying seasonality definitely helps with certain items, and you look forward to certain seasons, but on the whole, I think consumption is driven by availability, and people are definitely going to be buying more because it's more readily available.
Well, I would argue that avocados are a perfect example of playing out your thesis there, your analysis, because 20 years ago there wasn't, and avocados was on this list, but in the Northeast, 20 years ago, there was not a lot of consumption of avocados back then, because they didn't exist, because Mexico couldn't go there. But now that you have avocados all over the country, I would say consumption's increased. And I think that's for two reasons. One, availability, and two, they're damn good. So,
yeah, well, consistency of quality as well. When you can offer customers a good eating experience, or even just a good visual experience on a regular basis, it's going to drive repeat sales.
Indeed. Well, a couple of other ones on the list near and dear to our heart. Cukes are 13%, tomatoes 12, eggplant 11, and good old squash came in at 9%. So, whatever the case is, these folks, they're eating more of the things we need them to be eating more of 20 years later. So, I just hope we don't have to wait another 20 years to get them to keep this pattern going.
And, to touch on something you just said, remember the report says they're purchasing more.
Yeah.
We got to hope that they're actually eating more, and these things are not just dying in the shelf at the bottom of their fridge.
Yeah.
But at least getting it back to their home, there's a much higher chance that they are in fact eating these.
That's it. That is a good point. That is a good point. Well, hey, one other topic I want to touch on, just in terms of commodities, and then we'll get into some of the specifics that we talk about each week. But, The cantaloupe deal, that was had a rough go situation, out of Mexico, and it had a really adverse effect on this year's deal on the crop coming out of Mexico. The offshore deal was long running. It's just finally finished up. But the Mexico deal was terrible, man. It was just a really, really price wise and everything. It was a tough go.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the year over year pricing on it, it's well below the last few years. And yeah, honestly, the cantaloupe quality has been on par with what it has been in years past. Obviously, we're coming off a year where there was a very unfortunate outbreak. Nobody likes to talk about it, but I think it's hard to say that didn't affect demand for Mexican cantaloupes. Yeah, I wish that people would understand that most of these outbreaks are somewhat isolated incidents, and they're related to one specific growing season rather than having this continued hangover from these situations. But that's not really the world that we live in and the sandbox we play in. But obviously you and I know differently. But yeah, it's really coming to a close here. More of a going out with a whimper instead of a bang.
Yeah.
But we got through it. The Arizona stuff should be starting shortly. I think there's actually a few people that have already begun, but I wish them the best, and I hope for better markets.
Yeah, and we'll see. Really, the fall is going to be interesting on the cantaloupe deal out of Mexico. I think based on how things went, it was already even coming to the spring deal. I know there is a lot of folks didn't do cantaloupes, so you would have intuitively thought that would help things. But even the lack of production really didn't make much difference in terms of how things go, right? So that probably, my guess is the fall deal is going to have even less product, and there won't be an offshore deal that's running late to help smooth the bump. So my expectation is for no product but high prices. So that's my guess on the fall deal, and we'll see. But
from your mouth to God's ears, let's hope we're listening.
We'll see. Our favorite. Let's start in the squash space and talk about what's going on there.
We talked about it last week that we're really in the doldrums of it, and prices hadn't hit historical rock bottoms, but they're definitely at the bottom end of of our comfort zone. It really seemed that the beginning part of this week, yesterday and today, movement was a little better. Really hoping that continues, and that this thing has finally reached its bottom and will slowly work its way back up. As we discussed, there's already a couple people that have shut down their spring programs. Slightly less availability tends to help markets, and couple that with demand. That's the driver.
Yeah.
Things hopefully look good for the rest of this week, and hopefully when we talk next week, things will be looking even better.
Well, I heard there's a movement out there for grilling squash. So I expect there's I don't know who started it, but there's going to be a mad dash just for people to summer grill squash. This may be the biggest year of summer grilling from what I hear. So I think that's
not a rumor started in the Slate household.
I think that's going to bode well. But no, I do think there is a bit of a bifurcated market in this right now, because the East Coast is still, as we are coming out of it, I do, from what I know on the East Coast side, they're still in that, well, at best 10, but they're sub 10 for the most part right now. And, this thing has started to move here, and, we're seeing prices, certainly the 12s, and, I think we'll see some 12, 14, certainly going into next week. I think you're going to see some really strong West Coast markets on that squash space. We talked last week, yellows has been good, but hopefully the East Coast has the opportunity to catch up on some of what we're seeing over here, because, it has been Less than pretty for sure in that space. Now, one area in the squash group though is the organic zoot's not too bad right now.
Yeah, the organic space. I mean, obviously there's a much smaller production base than there is on the conventional side of things, and so those markets tend to swing, much higher and much lower as they go through. But we're definitely on an upswing. $20 plus on organic zook at the moment, and yellow still lagging behind a little bit, but I think that's going to catch up. And as you and I both know, when organic yellow gets short, it's not unheard of for that to swing past the $30
Yeah.
mark, and I see that probably happening sometime very
Yeah,
soon.
I agree. I actually think you're going to see, both. I mean, I don't see the Zook getting above 30, but certainly north of 25 is in the cards for Zook, and that north side of 30 on the yellow, highly probable. And then it becomes one of those situations if you can get your hands on it, kind of a deal. So, but yeah. So there is that, and then we've got our next one up, the slicer category, good old cukes. What do you say? What
Yeah,
say you about the cuke deal?
that's one of those where going into the spring deal, coming out of the high prices in winter. Um, Production is definitely down from where it is historically, and so we're looking at markets right now. Probably 16.95 on the high end to 12.95 on the low end for supers, which is still decent money for this time of year. Whereas typically, we're in the $10 to $14 range, usually closer to 10. So I hope that continues. I think it's found a nice footing. The volume is definitely down, but market seems steady. Demand is decent. I think it's found a nice level where it's going to work for the foreseeable future.
Well, and taking a look at the produce IQ graphs, oddly enough, the cuke deal right now is we're slightly ahead of where we were at the same time last year, same week. But last year, and this thing, the cute market really started to take off once we got out of this week. It went, it began climbing and kept climbing until we got to call it the end of June, and then stayed strong all the way through the summer. So hopefully we're going to be looking at some of those same markets as we go into this 2024 summer.
I don't know of anything that would keep the trend from continuing. If anything, I think there's actually a slightly less volume planted for the summer months. So I, I definitely see this market continuing to strengthen going into the month of June.
Now, how much longer anything out of Sonora? What is that on the Cukes done in a couple of weeks, or where are they coming out of there?
Historically, they would end up the end of May, first week of June, but over the last few years, they've been able to extend it, and a lot of people will go into mid-June. Some of them, in the past have even reached the first week of July. My gut tells me the majority of the production will be wrapped up by the second week of June.
Okay, all right. Well, that is then definitely extending that season, and should keep supplies in pretty good shape, coupled with what's coming out of the Baja, and then of course out of the local deals out of the U.S. So Cukes should be good. The hot market is the freaking Roma deal, man. What is going on with Romas?
Historically, the summer months are always better than than the winter months for tomatoes, market wise. But interestingly enough, the domestic market within Mexico is very strong right now. People offering 16 $17 a box at the field level. So then when you couple that with your freight and crossings into the US, and your imported tomatoes need to be north of $20 just to compete with those costs at the farm level. And so as long as that demand continues within the domestic market in Mexico, I don't see that situation changing any.
As of early week, right? We were 18 was kind of the number. You look back, this thing was sub 10 same week last year, and we're at 18 now, and we will be, if we're not already there. By the time this thing drops, we'll be north of 20, just because exactly what you're talking about. If they can get that kind of money in Mexico, they're not bringing it here unless they can get over $20 a box. So yeah, I see the Roma deal at least for the next week or two, being on fire, so to speak. So
Good old
we do
watermelon.
have watermelons. That's been a category that it's had a couple of little dips. I mean, it was like what we talked about last week. It was one of those first quarter items that saw prices that I'm not sure we'd ever seen in the bin space. It's definitely come down from some of those, what we 300? What did we get up to on the bin price, June?
Yeah, we were north of
Yeah,
$300 a bin.
$300. I mean, goodness, at what price do people quit eating watermelon for crying out loud?
You got to remember, there's a certain segment of the population that just has to have it. Certain restaurants that have it in menus, buffets.
Yeah.
There's areas that they need to have it. Whether or not retail sales continued at the same clip, I highly doubt it. But a lot of those institutional buyers and food service operators definitely need to have it.
Well, and we've definitely come down from that, but it's in really good numbers, at least for the guys in the Sonora deal, right? What, $168 up to maybe 190, somewhere in that range right now.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen years where the watermelon deal is 8 to 10 cents during this time of year, and you're just trying to recoup your direct costs of picking, packing, and shipping. With the hopes that you'll be able to get some of those indirect costs and sunk costs in the seed and preparation. So again, like you said, I'm glad the farmers are getting paid and they need to get theirs. Whether this trend continues or not, I'm still not sure. There seems to be some signs of a slight softening over the next couple of weeks as more production comes from the Southeast. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. Like you say, I mean, I can remember in my time since I've been here when they were literally pushing melons off of trucks just so they could get the trucks back to Mexico because there was no place to offload them. So thank goodness we're not in one of those situations and we're not faced with that, and definitely doesn't look like it's going to be the case. I think we'll stay at some pretty, at least where you can make some money pricing. It's not going to be anything astronomical. And then we've got summertime and 4th of July, as crazy as it sounds. I mean, it's 4 or 5 weeks and we're going to start those pools on that 4th of July pool. So we talked about bell peppers and people consuming the bell pepper market. That's in transition now. Pretty much everything for us on this side of Mexico is wrapped up and everything's more or less moved back to the States. It is an item that, if you look at year over year pricing, it's below where it had been same time last year. Actually, it was a much better market this time last year than this year.
Yeah, I think last year's market was atypical for this time of year, with higher than normal pricing. As the Sonora deal starts to wind down, you kind of end up with another one of those fancy words you mentioned, a bifurcated market, whereas your jumbos and XLs
Word of the day.
are going for really good money, but 75% of the production is going to be in mediums and choice. So, if you have size and you have quality, then it's definitely worth a decent amount right now. But if you don't, then you're struggling to keep the product moving.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll see how that goes. I mean, the bell pepper deal, like I say, so much of that is domestic in the summertime, and for us, we'll be players in it, but not on a large scale. And we'll typically leave that summertime deal to the local guys, and we just participate on the sidelines and help out where we can, kind of deal. But exactly. Hot pepper still good. It does feel like that there might be finally some softening coming in with the California production, and all the guys out east certainly are rocking and rolling on that. So that market looks like it may finally get a little relief in terms of prices. We'll see.
Yeah, it definitely needs to come back down to earth. We've got prices 2 to 3 times what they historically have been. So, if we want consumption to continue, we definitely need more reasonable pricing.
Well, I know there's lots of people. One good news in that space, right? That's an item that A lot of people really just continue to lean into spicy food and the hot peppers and saw a deal today or yesterday. Somebody's got which it seemed like it might be a little challenge, but it's like a mixed pack of these different peppers, and they've got like the heat meter on the bag. It's
Scoville
yeah,
scale.
it's got like the Scoville scale. So like when you buy like, hey, it's kind of like when you buy salsa, right? You buy medium or mild or whatever. Well, it's a bag of mixed peppers, and it's they got a little gauge. So I thought it was interesting. It's one of those deals. I don't know. I mean, will people buy a bag of peppers that are already picked out for you, or is that consumer typically going to be the one that wants to kind of pick and choose? We'll see, I guess. I guess you got to try it. I don't know.
It's an interesting concept to get, at a minimum, get new foods and new flavors in front of people that, may otherwise just be like, oh, I need a jalapeno for this recipe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Right.
Take care.
Everybody take care out there. Please hit us up. Give us a like. Give us a I don't like. I want to hear this. I don't want to hear that. I don't know. Say something on the dadgum, whatever they call it there.
Tell us what we got wrong. I guarantee we got something wrong, and people love telling us when we're wrong.
Don't do it on the Twitter thing, because I don't look at that. Just do it below, like where the video shows, and maybe one of these guys will see it. But anyway, everybody, thanks for listening. Have a great week. We'll see y'all. We're out.
Take care.